let's move on to the highlight of the day, and that is the absolutely wild game that took place between the Dolphins and the Chargers in the afternoon slate. I love it. Week one, you get this back and forth shootout between two offenses I think we're both excited about. I may have to eat a little bit of crow about the Dolphins as we get into this. Just overarching, I don't think I gave Mike McDaniel enough credit for what the 2.0 version of this would look like and just how creative that offensive staff was. And we can get into the reasons for that, but just on a general level, an absolute thriller to kick off week one in the afternoon window with everybody paying attention.
I didn't have either of these teams in my top 10 when it was all said and done, but did say positive things about both. But that was more of an injury, overarching, overhanging injury concerns that I think that hang over both of these teams and both of these offenses. So we'll talk about in 10 weeks. But holy crap, Mike McDaniel is good. He is so good. And what? First off, one stat is that they had 16 explosive plays today. And I looked it up. That's the second most a team has had in a game since 2014. There's only one game that was better, which was a Rams loss in 2020, but we don't have to talk about that. It was a weird game that showed up in. But just we've talked about before, the use of speed and the use of motion that Mike McDaniel has done, and really these Shanahan offenses have done. He's kind of added another layer to it. And it was a motion he kept using. I just wanted to show just one motion, talk about it, just to explain everything that he was doing today. Was this, we talk about jet motions all the time, across the formation. He was doing out motions and he's hiding alignment every which way or every way now. So what they're doing is just think of a helicopter that can go in any direction. Now that motion can go in any direction. And now you're making the defenses communicate over and over and over. And they're doing it with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they're doing it with backup receivers. Like the Dolphins do a weird thing where they kind of hockey shift their receivers. And so they're like, okay, our starters are out. Okay, backups in. And so they're still doing it with River Craycraft. What? Really?
Listen, it's not up to me.
A Twilight novel. But they'll get stacked. They're hiding these alignments. And I'm not trying to get too scheme heavy with this stuff, but just how he weaponizes the speed is just, he's creative. It's like a postmodern offense. You know what I mean? Like he uses like tropes and just knows, okay, you're planning, we're doing all this jet motion behind the quarterback. Now we're just going to go the other way. And it's going to make you guys communicate in a way that you weren't expecting over and over and over. It's amazing. It's such cool stuff. There's other stuff he did, but that was just the thing that just stood out to me. It was just using just something that seems so simple, but no one leans into it as much as Mike McDaniel does, and weaponizing the assets that he has.
Last year, it was all a lot of jet motion where you'd have a player come across the entire formation and change the picture that way. Now it's a player starting on one side of the formation, but just changing where he's aligned right before the snap. And the one that really jumped out to me is there was a chunk play early in the second quarter where Tyreek Hill was kind of as an H-back, lined up almost like a tight end. And he just goes in a quick little speed motion. And then because of the way that the receiver number count changes and the leverages change right before the snap, there's just so little you can do as a defense when all that speed is coming at you and the picture is changing that quickly. There's really no time for them to communicate. And JC Jackson had absolutely no shot on that play because, again, it just all changes so fast. And they were using that little tiny quick motion all throughout the game. And I'm sure it happened. It's nothing in football is new, right?
No,
we've seen all this stuff before, but seeing a team use it 10 times today, a dozen times today, the way that they did, I've never seen a team do that before. And it's just one more little bit of wrinkle in the evolution. And why it's important is teams did such a good job late in the season of getting physical with those guys at the line of scrimmage. And this is just one more way that you're creating free releases and changing the picture right before the snap. So the next kind of fold, the next step in this Miami Dolphins innovation and evolution, we saw it today, and it was like a fireworks show. It was like that Millhouse meme, just the TV coming at you that I tweeted this morning. It was insane.
With playing a video game. It's, oh my God, it's the use of leverage. It's almost wing T stuff, like or flex bone, like kind of stuff like that, as far as like the out motion and everything. It's not orbit or anything like that, but just as far as using the motion to go out as they're starting in the wing position, it's just so cool. Like it really is. I just can't get over it. Like, just I've seen teams do that, but it's a one-off play. they ran the play that you talked about to Hill, the one I talked about with the backup receivers. They used it on quick game. They used a bootleg out of it. So they're running everything out of it. And they're just, again, using a guy that runs a 4.240 that the one you're talking about, the fact that they can attack 16 yards down the field after the guy is already going a motion outwards. That's how fast Tyreek Hill is. But let's use it. Let's break the rules because we have a guy that can break the rules. And then also on top of that, going back to the basics, they're also just doing like under center stuff. And they did that stuff that we talked about. They did in the second half of the Chargers game last year. Under center, they set play action out of it. They did under center run game. Yeah, really just well done. The explosive plays and everything just kind of like matches how this team looked today. They just looked fantastic. And that's with making some mistakes.
The Chargers had no answer in the secondary. J.C. Jackson was just running around, spinning. His head was spinning the entire game. He had the pick, obviously, but they were picking on him consistently throughout the entire game.
Yeah, it was. How about the play before the end of the first half? He gets a PI, and that we're going to do a sliding door segment later. And that actually should have been one of them because the team lost by 2 and they gave up a cheap field goal at the end of the half. That just like didn't make any sense. Why do you even think that was a good play?
One more sliding doors moment in this game from the Dolphins offense. Mike McDaniel choosing to go for it on 4th and 7 from the 42-yard line late in the second quarter and them getting it. Those little things we forget them. You look at the numbers and Tua threw for 400 yards and they had 30 first downs. You forget that those decisions are so important. The 4th and 7 to go for it late in the second quarter and get it. And then that JC Jackson shove end up becoming huge in this game.
And it was also interesting. This is the last kind of thing with this offense that was, is their use of, they did this last year, but using 21 personnel without Gingold out there and kind of making the defense pick their poison. And this is kind of just this story of how the Dolphins in this game the Chargers were one hand tied behind their back. Like every time they had one answer, they came up with an answer. The Dolphins had something else for them. The Chargers at first were matching with base every time the Dolphins tried a field goal or a fullback out there. So like, okay, cool. We'll try out base. You guys aren't going to run on this. 12 plays, they matched with base. 7 first downs for the Dolphins, 5 explosive plays. Okay. So, all right, cool. All right. So it's matched with nickel, right? Let's get 5 DBs out there. That way, okay, we get a little more speed on the field. 15 plays, 4 explosive plays on 11 dropbacks and 7 first downs. So they're just averaging like a first down at 50% clip. And so just you figure out this one, you plug one hole and then Dolphins just pop up 2 more into your boat and just sink it. It was just unbelievable to watch today.
And then Al Gingle had a couple big completions in this game. He had a couple big receptions in this game. And so it wasn't even just the speed. It wasn't just the stars. No. They were creating easy completions for a lot of guys. I want to also just acknowledge Tua made 3 or 4 plays out of structure today that were huge in the outcome of the game. Today. He had one down in the red zone where he kind of just created after the play, found Durham Smythe for a big completion in the first half. And then the biggest completion of the entire game, he makes that happen. He steps up in the pocket. He extends just a tiny bit, finds a little bit more time and finds Tyreek Hill down the field. And that was one of the concerns and questions with him last year is when you take away what's available to him within the structure of the play, what does he turn into? And I think there were 4 or 5 moments in this game where he gave you an answer that if you're a Dolphins fan, you should feel very, very good about.
And then he dotted that fade to Tyreek too.
That's beautiful.
That was a BB. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a triple 20. But he had a couple other ones. He had some great ones. Like, and also just throwing on time, getting rid of the ball. Like their pressure never really felt like that was affecting them in the game too much.
Ron Armstead didn't play in the game today.
I know.
You didn't even notice it.
And that's the number one concern with this team. It's like, oh, they're not going to be able to protect. But it's just like if they throw it like this and they're able to attack, just like last year, they're able to attack 20 yards down the field under 2 seconds. That's so incredibly hard to stop. Doesn't matter how good your pass rush is.
Are you worried about the Chargers defense? Or is this another case of them just running into a team that had a very good offseason plan, knew exactly what the next iteration of this had to look like, and just jumped on them the entire game?
I'm unchanged. I want to see the Chargers defense against a team that's maybe more mediocre and not super duper explosive like this. So they had some okay moments, at least in the run game, but it's like, I just want to see them against a quote unquote normal team as opposed to this thing that we just saw today. It's the same concerns I had preseason. How can they stop the run? How's the spine of the defense built? But it's like, I just want to.
I'm concerned. I mean, again, you're not going to be playing against Tyreek Hill and this sort of passing game every single week. But JC Jackson's performance today is at least a little bit concerning to me.
Awful. I mean, 16 explosive plays. That's That's pretty concerning when when technically you're built to not give up explosive plays. I mean, that's like your whole philosophy, at least for your defense.
A tough loss for the Chargers, but I came out of this game still feeling pretty optimistic about the Chargers, especially their offense. The big questions we had about the Chargers after their offensive performance over the last couple of years: can they find explosive plays, and can they run the ball consistently? The Dolphins did everything they could to take away explosive plays today, but we got an answer to the second question, boy.
Oh,
234 yards on 40 carries for the Chargers. They were unbelievably efficient. If you look at their EPA per play running the ball, it was about the same as Patrick Mahomes' dropback EPA last season. That's how good they were every single time they ran the ball today. And I just thought they did such a great job of quick hitting runs, which was their big issue last year, is a lot of the runs were way too horizontal. And if teams are going to play you in those light boxes, they want you to have these slower developing runs where their safeties can fill a little bit slowly. All of the stuff was quick hitting. And I thought they did such a great job of using the tight ends in the run game.
Yeah.
And not asking them to block at the point of attack. They were leading up on stuff. They were coming across the formation. I thought it was really, really creative. So them being able to find that sort of run game this early makes me feel pretty good about where this offense can go over the course of the year.
24 out of 36 run plays are successful. That's a ridiculous rate.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You lead the league last year at like 45%. They were at 66.7%.
Without any like real QB runs. I mean, Herbert can do it, but that's not their game. Just traditional run game. Only 4 teams have ever had a more efficient day on the ground with the same amount of runs or more. So it's since 2014. So it was a pretty banner day in LA between these two offenses. It's pretty awesome. But no, I would say just even the run game was Kellen Moore at least like weaponizing what he has. I guess stop using the word weaponizing, but I'll use it one more time. But like Zion Johnson's a great puller. And what you brought up with the tight ends, that's a great point, is not having to block at a point of attack. And a lot of teams are doing this. So a pin pull play, usually it's 2 offensive linemen pulling to the outside towards the tight end side. It's a strong side run, but the tight end traditionally has to pin. He has to block a D end to get the whole thing going. So that's when you hear me have a lot of concerns about tight end blocking. It's usually this play I have in mind, because
especially this group.
Yeah, especially this group. But what I've seen teams starting to do, and the Browns kind of popularized this last year and a couple other teams, is they have the tight end kind of feign the D end, because these D ends are so wide now, and then block the linebacker at the second level, and then they have the guard pull and kick out the D end. So they just exchange responsibilities. And boy, the Chargers were good at it today. And Zion Johnson on those, as opposed to like a zone run, he looks fantastic because he pulls, he just kicks the crap out of a D end, and it just opens up like crazy. And so they're just spreading it out and doing runs like that. It's just sound football. And they're running duo, which I always love, of course, out of the same formation I just talked about for the other play.
It was their best run play last year. They leaned into the things they do best in the run game. And that was one of our biggest questions about them coming into the year.
And they didn't telegraph it. That was always the thing with Joe Lombardi's offense. It was like, this formation, we're doing this run. I think you and Chase talked about it a little bit, but like this formation, we're doing this run. Today, they're doing it at the formation that they do other runs out of. And then, so you're just making the look a little different. You're making them communicate with motion, but then you're making like Xavier Howard, the corner, tackle over and over. And he didn't tackle today. So you're just getting these 12-yard runs on really not a lot of investment. So again, it's just sound football. So it's good to see, because again, that was a huge concern we had. One real frustrating moment, if I may, was getting on a 3rd and 1, getting into empty. And like, that was the play that Herbert almost took the safety out on. And it's like, you guys are running.
That was a problem. And then they tried to run a shovel pass to Quentin Johnson on 3rd and 1. Both of those were immensely frustrating moments. And again, it's just those little tiny, if that goes the other way, this game could go the other way. And when they're running the ball so well, to go to those sorts of looks in those moments was frustrating. And in the end, they needed to make some plays in the passing game, and they couldn't on that final drive. I thought the Chargers passing game was fine, but still meat on the bone that I want to see them be better, more explosive, just more reliable over the course of the season. Even in that final drive, it just didn't feel like they were going to make that happen. If that game, let's say they score, if the Dolphins were only going to lose that game, in my opinion, because they ran out of time, right?
Yeah.
If they turned the ball over in the red zone, their offense was unstoppable. Even if the Chargers run game was good today, I never felt that way about them. That was the difference in kind of my overall assessment of how the two offenses played.
This is the difference between explosive and efficient. Is like right here, especially how you get to those. Like the Dolphins say, we'll be fine and efficient on the ground, but we're getting all these explosives through the air. The Chargers are right now trying to be super efficient on both, but they're not getting those explosives. They did on the run game today, but it's like, that's why if you're just built that way and not getting them through the air, which was our other question, it was the run game and how they create explosives through the air, how they push the ball. Still one question, still kind of sort of waiting. We got to see, but it's like, yeah, that's kind of always just one thing always wanted remaining with this Chargers offense. It feels like
still bullish about both of the offenses, and I think both these teams will be very relevant in the AFC.